What's up guys, welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding, and today is going to be a back workout, slightly modified because my lower back is a little bit irritated, sensitive. You don't want to get that to get any worse, so what we're going to do is modify this workout to still get a back growth workout in without impacting the lower back. So the first movement is going to be a pull down movement, which doesn't impact the lower back at all, which is going to be the close grip pull down. Very amazing for back width, but also thickness. So let's get started. So we are starting out with the narrow grip pull down, which, as I mentioned, is an amazing way to start out most back workouts if your focus is on the back thickness but don't want to totally neglect the back width. Because as we all know, as most people know, I should say, is that pull downs usually work on the back width, so how wide your back is, the V taper, and the rowing movements like a seated row, barbell row, T-bar row, they mostly work the thickness of the muscles in the back. So they don't contribute as much to the V taper, but they do contribute a lot of size and thickness and maturity to the muscles in the back. So that's why I like to do more rowing compared to pull downs, because once you have the width, you simply need the thickness to be, to make it impressive, because most back poses like the back double bicep and the back lat spread, even though they may look wide, if they are not filled in with a lot of thick muscle, it simply won't look as good, especially when you're standing on stage and comparing yourself to other professional bodybuilders who have been training their back for many years. You can see the big difference. So even though when you're in the gym you think you have a wide back and you are a competitive person, or you simply want to improve your back to the maximum of its ability, then doing a lot of rows will definitely get you there a lot faster compared to doing a lot of pull down movements. So what you see me doing here is the first working set. As always, we're doing some warm-ups to warm the back first, not going to failure at all, and then we're starting with the first working set, which is the first set that does go to failure, which means we're doing as many reps as we can until we can't complete another full rep with correct form. As you can see right there, I tried to go all the way down and squeeze the back. I couldn't, so I called it quits. If you then try to do some forced reps, you might get a little bit of stimulus, but you have to recover from that a whole lot more, which then causes the stimulus to fatigue ratio to be off. So less of a stimulus for more fatigue, that is not what we want. So in total I did 3 working sets of this movement. Okay guys, the next movement will be the seal row. We're going to use the ATX cambered bar, which means the bar actually goes around you. And the seal row is basically a bench that is higher, that you lie on with face down. You can actually really row upwards without impacting the lower back at all. So let's get started. Alright, so this is the seal row using the ATX cambered bar. This is amazing. As I said before, you're allowed then to go all the way up without the bar touching the bench or touching your body. Even with a bent over row, for example, if you use a regular barbell, it will touch your stomach or whatever place you decide you want the bar to go to when you go upwards, either your upper abs or lower abs, doesn't matter, the bar will touch your body, and that's when the range of motion ends. But with a bar like this, with an indent in the middle that allows the bar to wrap around your body, you can increase the range of motion just like you would if you would do a machine or 2 dumbbells, for example, and that makes the exercise a lot more difficult as well, which is why the weight here is drastically lower compared to a regular bent over row or barbell row, where you do at least, in my case at least, about 120 or 140 kilos. Here it is almost pretty much cut in half. So there's two reasons. The first reason is the full range of motion, as I mentioned. The second reason is zero momentum on the seal row. You're simply laying there face down. You can't use any other muscles or your body's momentum or stance to make the exercise easier. So no cheating allowed. And no cheating means only the muscles you want to work are being worked. You can see here that during the row it is very important to squeeze and retract the shoulder blades. You should always be able to do this. If you can't do this, then you know the weight is too heavy and you should simply go a lot lighter. Next movement will be the rope rows, seated rope rows, with this bench being a chest support. So with a rope row you can really contract the upper back, the thickness of the upper back, because I'm using a pulley and you can adjust the height to where you want it. So if you want to work the lower lats, you put it lower. Obviously if you want to work the upper back thickness, you put it a bit higher, but always retract the shoulder blades, pull with the elbows, and make the most out of this movement by really getting in the squeeze. So let's do this. Now this is also a very good exercise. Now some gyms don't have a lot of back machines like our own gym, but that doesn't mean you can't be creative in working the back just as effectively as you would have 10 or 20 different machines, because in all honesty there are a lot of machines out there that you can easily mimic using a rope or a barbell or a dumbbell, and it feels pretty much the same, yet it allows you to free up a lot of space for better and more efficient equipment in your gym. But anyway, this is the rope row, using the bench as a chest support, which normally a machine would have. And the rope row, the rope allows me to, just like the seal row we did upstairs there, it allows me to wrap the rope around the bench for a better contraction. So when I go backwards with my arms, I pull my elbows back. I also pull my back backwards, so my lower back is arching, so I can more easily squeeze the lower lats and also the upper back thickness. So the entire back here is pretty much involved, but there's always an emphasis on one part of the back depending on the type of exercise. And here, as I mentioned at the beginning, the pulley height determines which part of the back is working the hardest. So the pulley height here is around the mid-chest, and that means that at the height of your mid and low chest and the other side of your body on your back, those are the muscles that will be working the hardest, because those are in line with the weight that you're pulling. So automatically that's most efficient for your body to use as the muscles to work that exercise. Here, of course, I'm showing some progress in the back. This, by the way, is pretty much a month ago that it was shot. So as of right now, the conditioning is a little bit better, but it was great to see that conditioning at that point was improved already. And the thickness in the back, I can tell, compared to the previous preps I've done, has been improved a little bit as well. Little steps, compounded over many years, come a long way in bodybuilding. As I always say, bodybuilding simply takes a lot of time. You can't do it quickly, because the quicker you get somewhere, the quicker you will fall down anyway. And you want to build up your foundation like this, and then you have it for the rest of your life, as long as you are able to maintain the exercise and the nutrition. Okay guys, the next movement will be more of a chest supported pull down. Unilateral one, but we're going to use both hands at the same time, but with one handle per hand with individual cables. So that's the big benefit of this machine. It has two separate cables, which allows me to really focus on the same stretch contraction without one hand helping the other. So let's do this. So this is another one of those movements you would usually do on a machine, like a hammer strength row. I call this the Unilateral High Row. Basically, it is a row that comes from above your body, which is why it's called a high row, but this unilateral movement really allows you to work on both sides of the back equally. So if you would do this exercise with a lat pull down, for example, one part of the back that is stronger could be working a little bit harder to compensate for the weaker part that wouldn't be able to keep up, and you would never know because it's a solid bar. But with two different handles, you can actually work on both parts, and when you feel one of your back parts is giving up early, then you know that is weaker. So you can never create an imbalance using a unilateral exercise like this, and it simply feels quite amazing. The last back movement, an isolation for the lower lats, which they always need to improve for myself because my lats attach a bit higher, so the bigger the lower lats are, the lower they seem to attach from the front poses, especially from the back. I think big lower lats is really impressive, which a lot of bodybuilders actually lack. So doing an exercise like the cable pullover or the dumbbell pullover is great to also hit that lower back. So let's do this. So the cable pullover, as I've mentioned many times on this channel, has been replacing the dumbbell pullover for quite some time now. I used to do a lot of dumbbell pullovers, and even though they are both called pullovers, they are quite different exercises altogether. So they both give you a great stretch in the lats, but only the cable pullover also gives you a great contraction in the lower lats, which the dumbbell pullover doesn't. So I used to do the dumbbell pullover at the very end of the workout because you already have a pumped up back, and then you want to stretch out those lats, and that gives you actually a better serratus muscle and a wider back in general. But now I want to work on the lower back thickness, which is what this cable pullover is all about. Let's now go ahead and crush the biceps, starting with a cable curl with both arms, just to warm up the biceps and to get a very nice peak contraction, because we're going to do a closer grip, allowing me to really contract the outside of the bicep. The closer the grip, the more the tension goes to the outside. So if you want a bicep peak, usually you should go for a close grip preacher curl, close grip cable curl like this. So let's get started. And now it is time to start the bicep exercises. Normally I would be doing a reverse fly or a face pull in between the back movements and the bicep movements. That would work the rear delts. But for me, for every 2 back workouts, I train the rear delts once. So I alternate working the rear delts, because if I work them too much, they can actually overtake my shoulder proportions, because the front delts, they are there, the side delts are there, but the rear delts can grow quite quickly for me, and that all has to do with having a great mind-muscle connection with that muscle, because I can very easily feel it whenever doing a reverse dumbbell fly, for example. I can purely focus on the rear delts without the traps being involved and really feel with those muscles. And I've been saying that to you guys for many years. If you have weaker rear delts, really practice and do your best to feel the mind-muscle connection, to get a good feel for when that muscle is working and for when it is not working. Because if you go too heavy, it will be the traps working, and if you go too light, well, you can't really go too light, but around 20 to 25 reps is the golden amount of reps, in my opinion, because then it's light enough for your traps not to be involved and heavy enough to give a stimulus to the rear delts, allowing them to get filled with blood and get a good pump, and therefore growth as well. But in this workout we're not doing the rear delts, we are doing the biceps. So this is a close grip cable curl. The close grip means that we work the outside of the bicep a bit more. As you can see, the brachialis is working and the outer bicep head is working. The goal here is to create a bigger bicep peak, and of course a bigger bicep in general. But the bicep peak here, guys, that is what I can truly feel when performing this curl. So that's what you want to look for when doing a close grip curl like this. Last movement is going to be just the classic alternating dumbbell curl, which is just amazing, and I actually like doing it after already having done one exercise to warm up the biceps, because then the pump is there and you get a better feeling, better mind-muscle connection, and a much better contraction in my opinion. So let's do it. We are ending the workout with something very simple, the alternating dumbbell curl. I've been doing this for a very long time, a lot of years, ever since the beginning of working the biceps. This is simply one of those movements you have to be able to master to create bigger biceps, because here you need an even better capability of getting your mind inside the muscle, because at the bottom there is little tension, basically no tension, because your arm is simply hanging there. However, when you go up, the tension is exponentially increasing as the dumbbell is fighting against gravity, is being pulled by the gravity when you go up more and more compared to the tension on your bicep. So the higher you go, the more tension you will feel on the bicep. And as you can see, I'm not going just to 90 degrees, I'm going a bit higher than that to cause a peak contraction, and that's where the mind-muscle connection goes in. Some people go up so high they actually lose tension again on the bicep, and all the tension will be on their forearm bones. That's not what you want. You want to feel constant tension on the bicep when you go up, and try to feel it on the way down as well. And that's when you know you're doing the exercise correctly and making those biceps grow. Okay guys, that was the back and biceps workout. Slightly modified to really keep the lower back from being involved, at least the spine and the erectors. So all of them were just pull-down exercise or chest supported movements to make sure the lower back is not impacted in a negative way. So this is a great workout to do if you have some lower back pain but still want to train the back to the max of your ability. And of course the bicep movements were some basic movements to get some bigger peaks and bigger mass in the biceps. I really want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to check out vintagegenetics.com for all your latest apparel and gear and clothing of the Vintage Genetics Classic Golden Era line. Anyway guys, thank you for watching, and don't forget to stay golden.